One of the biggest issues for electric vehicles is charging infrastructure. We hear it all the time. There aren't enough charging stations. Installations take too long. It's too complicated. It's too expensive. And that criticism, it's been fair. So EV adoption is accelerating, but infrastructure deployment, the actual charging stations, it hasn't always kept pace. I mean, installing chargers isn't just plugging something into a wall. You've got trenching, foundations, permitting, often electrical upgrades. You also have weather delays and labor bottlenecks. All of that slows deployment down. So here's the question. What if we could dramatically speed up EV charger installations? What if we could simplify the most time-consuming part of the process? And what if we could design installations that are future-proof, meaning when you need to add more chargers later, you're not starting from scratch? That's exactly what today's guest is doing. Trevor Palmer is the founder and inventor of EV Blocks, a universal precast EV charger foundation system designed to streamline EV infrastructure deployment and reduce installation time. But before we jump in, if you care about clean energy, electrification, EVs, grid infrastructure, and the future of deployment, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the alert bell. It's all totally free. All right, let's get into this. Trevor, welcome to the Clean Energy Edge.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
So let's dive right into this. You're in the UK, but the problem is the same across the globe when it comes to electric vehicles, and that is that we need more charging stations to accommodate the growing number of EVs that are on the road. So with what you're seeing as far as deployment, what's the good, what's the bad, what's your overall impression of where we're at right now with deploying EV charging stations?
I think there's still this kind of weird range anxiety feeling when people are looking at electric cars. I must admit, I was similar when I was thinking about getting an electric car, even though I'm in the industry. But now, having been an EV driver for the last 6 months, certainly in the UK, it just doesn't seem to be an issue. There's plenty of DC charging on the motorways. Locally, I charge about twice a week. Whereas I thought, my initial thought was, I'll be plugged in every night, It's just not the case. And then in terms of where we're seeing chargers installed or the demand, we're seeing a lot of small businesses expanding kind of level 2 EV chargers, where maybe the kind of upper management might have had a couple of EV chargers installed, and now they're having kind of 5 or 10 more chargers installed for their staff members to use as well. And a big ramp up in DC fast chargers being deployed right across the UK. It's quite interesting to see the difference between the US market and the UK market. For a change, it feels like the UK is ahead of the US in terms of deployment, probably with the exception of like California, where they've just been going great guns for a good few years now.
Yeah. California is a bit different compared to the rest of the U.S., but again, it's the same challenges with EV chargers, getting those things installed, because we need more of them. And your point about range anxiety is well made. I've been driving an EV for many years now, but whenever I first started, range anxiety was a question and a concern that I had. So seeing more charging stations, that makes people feel better. It kind of tags that emotional thread a little bit, pulls on it to say, hey, this is going to be okay. But when people think about EV charging station installs, usually they just think about the charger, and they may not think about really what's underneath there. So the long lead time process as far as a schedule is usually dealing with concrete and those foundations. So how much time is typically lost just dealing with having to form up and pour foundations and let them cure, et cetera? What are you seeing there as far as maybe some wasted time?
It's kind of that disconnect between concrete being poured and then the next stage being able to be completed. you can't start fixing infrastructure into a piece of concrete that's only just been poured. So, you know, it can be up to a week, maybe 10 days if you've got poor weather before you can get back onto that concrete pad and actually complete the rest of the installation. So, you know, you've got your wastage of the shuttering materials and the formwork being built, making sure you get those conduit stub-ups in the right place. And some of the smaller level 2 charges have only got like a little footprint. And those stub-ups, concrete can sometimes kind of ledge up towards it, like haunch up to it, and getting that post level can be a bit tricky and, you know, can look a bit of a mess. And also the guy finishing the concrete has got to be, you know, pretty handy to get it level and finish it nicely. And then there's outside factors like the weather, or, you know, here it'd be foxes or birds walking over concrete pad while it's still wet after the guys have left site. So there's all sorts. And then, you know, if that gets damaged, you're into starting it again, which is a big waste of time. So there's getting it right. There's nothing wrong with pouring a concrete pad, but it's that delayed time before you can get back on it and finish the process.
Yeah, that the concrete has to cure, right? And even if everything's done right, your point about the charging station, especially those level 2s having that small window for the conduit to actually come up into, those are frustrating. I'm an electrician and I've had to deal with that many times. You think you've got everything in there right. You've gone through the measurements, you know, check them once, check them twice, check them 3 times. And it's still off a little bit for whatever reason. So that's definitely a frustration. But you've developed this, I'll say, definitely time-saving and money-saving solution that you're on 3 continents now, I understand, and it's called EV blocks. So can you explain in like very simple terms what EV blocks is, and how is it different from that traditional approach of forming up and pouring concrete?
Yeah, sure. So, like yourself, I'm an electrician by trade, and I was installing EV chargers at a pretty decent rate on the car dealership forecourts and showrooms and that kind of place. And we needed something where the guys could go faster and kind of join up that disconnect time, or, you know, not have the weight of curing time from when our civils contractors were in digging the holes and doing the groundworks to when our electricians could work on it, so that we could have, you know, both trades almost simultaneously together, or there's no delay between the civils contractors finishing and our electricians being able to fit the charger. So we started off making precast concrete foundations, and then we got caught out with that in terms of we had the conduits in the right place and the fixings in the right place, and then the manufacturer changed the fixing arrangements. So we got all these concrete precast blocks in the ground with the wrong fixing arrangements. So right, if we're going to do this and make it fast, it needs to be universal going forward. And that's where it came up the idea of putting a universal adapter plate on top of this foundation to allow you to fit any EV charger to the foundation. And so what we've ended up with is a precast element that goes in the ground, and then your grade level will come up to here. And even if the grade level is kind of falling away, it creates its own plinth. And then on top, we've got the adapter plate, which can be then drilled on site to accommodate whichever level 2 charger that the electrician is going to fit. And what the beauty of this is inside, the electricians have actually got room to work. So where they can bring up their stub-ups for the conduit, they can coil the cables up here ready for the next stage, fit the adapter plate, and that will sit passive, ready for when the EV chargers are ready to be installed. So say this is finished on a Friday and the guys don't want to leave the cables exposed over the weekend, all this can be hidden away from prying eyes, and then on Monday morning the electricians can come in, take the adapter plate off, fit the charger, and finish the job, complete the project. It also allows the general contractor to install kind of more foundations on that initial run. Say if they fit 10 foundations, they could fit 5 EV chargers on the first stage. And then once the landowner can see the utilization of those 5 EV charging points, then they can look to put the capex in for the next year's budget for installing the next few. But instead of having to dig up the ground again, all that infrastructure is already in place.
And what kind of time savings are we looking at? Because again, we talked earlier about, you got to form the foundation, you got to pour it, you got to finish it. It's got to be have time to cure before you can come back and even start on putting the station in. This saves a lot of time, which means it saves a lot of money. How much time are you seeing cut off of, say, a traditional schedule compared to using EV blocks?
Well, we've seen anything from sort of 3 or 4 days of time saved up to a couple of weeks, depending on the scale of the project. So it just goes on that sheer volume of the amount of formwork that the guys have got to make up, and concrete that needs to be poured and leveled off and all the rest of it. Whereas when they're installing the EV blocks, they can put 10 or 20 of these in the ground ready for being backfilled to grade level in the morning, which is a huge difference. They might not even get the formwork done in the morning compared with everything's ready for backfilling, could be conduited up, ready to go.
And I'm thinking about labor too. And here in the U.S., skilled labor it's a bit of a problem, right? We're not having as many people go into the trades. There's fewer of those skilled workers that can actually do this type of work scope. It's cutting back on that number of people too, right? So you're, instead of needing maybe a whole crew, for example, for a larger installation, this can really cut it down significantly. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're seeing in the US is guys either using like a mini X or a bobcat with a big core on, and then they'll drill the core and excavate in a circular fashion, and then they'll chip out 4 corners, dig that out, and then drop in our foundation. Obviously, with the mini X, they can just dig a square hole, and it just becomes a lot easier. And we're, again, in the UK, we're seeing the same problem with not so many people are going to the trades, and we're losing that.
And whenever you're talking about the actual physical size and weights of these, obviously a level 2 is going to be different than a large level 3 DC fast charging EV block. But as far as like the normal person being able to move these around and set them in place, is this a 2-person job to set these in? Is it more? Or if it's a big guy, can he handle this for the most part?
So these ones, certainly for the US market, they are £650. So we recommend a Mini X to lift them up on a basket lift. So just by putting the straps underneath the arches, and then dropping it into place. But yeah, I mean, if you're digging a trench, do you really want to be doing that by hand, or do you want to just get a Mini X on site and do the trenching, dig the holes for the foundations, drop them in, and away you go? And certainly with the US, there's a lot of different frost depth levels that need to be, the criteria needs to be hit for. So where that is lower block, what we're recommending is for that to be over excavated and then built back up with hardcore, and then this laid on top, ready to go then. And we've seen that done, right the way across the US, and it's been really successful.
Well, and one thing that I think is really important are, and you touched on this a little bit ago, Trevor, is that sites that may need, say, 1 or 2 level 2 charging stations today, but as that volume of electric vehicles grows, they may need more down the road. And this kind of goes into that future proofing of not having to kind of start from scratch. So can you talk about that a little bit as far as what your system allows for really future proofing and not having to maybe start over when you want to add more chargers on to a project site or at a facility?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as I mentioned before, that all the ducting and the conduits can be laid in preparation for, and that foundation can be left passive until the charge is ready to be installed. On top of that, as well, from the contractor's point of view, it also gives them some predictability around what it's going to cost to put that foundation in the ground, and then they can replicate that cost, that model across the site. So there's less unknowns. It gives the contractor some certainty around what they're actually pricing for in that part of the job. And it also gives the client some consistency across their site. So if they've got multiple properties where they're putting EV charging stations, they know that all those sites have got EV block foundations. They know that they're going to be uniform across the estate. That's a big thing when you're looking at life cycle of buildings and maintenance of large estates as well.
So I'm seeing two ways to future-proof here. You could install multiple EV blocks and have everything ready to just come in. Maybe you pull the cable, maybe you don't, but have everything ready where you can, the underground work for the most part has been done, so to speak, and you can finish pretty quickly. Or you can actually I'll say daisy chain off of an existing EV block that you already have installed, because that raceway is already going to be there, and then add other EV blocks down the road if you want to. So am I thinking about that the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. The main point there would be allowing for that future-proofing element in the initial raceways that are installed. And as long as that's been covered off, then you could use either approach. And then it just depends on the client's appetite, really, for do they want to shut that car park down 2 times, or do they just want to do it once and fit some additional foundations and have it ready? Or are they prepared to have that disruption twice over?
Sure. Well, and that's a very key point, is that home run back to where you're getting this power from. That has to be sized initially for whatever you're going to be installing. So if you're putting in 2 stations today, but you think you may need 10 in total, size for 10 stations as far as the raceway feeder, because that's just going to that'll be a little bit easier, and it's pretty cheap to throw that plastic into the ditch, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So for installers, let's talk about them a little bit more. What do you think is the biggest benefit for a contractor doing these types of installs? Is this more about speed, cost, consistency, or all three?
All three. When we were contracting, the biggest bugbear was where we were asked to go and commission a site where they'd poured their own pads. And we would find that our electricians would travel like 100, 150 miles up the road, get there, the pad's not level, or the ducting's coming out in the wrong place, or it's just a mess. And off the back of that, we've got an abortive visit. Now, fine, that's a chargeable visit, but it's not helping anyone go faster. You still got to go there again. And all, for the guys on the tools, it's just frustrating. They want to go to a job, they want to finish it, it's done. Thanks very much. On to the next one. No one wants to keep going back to the same job or coming across foundations or bases that are, a pig to deal with. Whereas if they're, the alternative at using our products, they know where they're going to every time. So before they even get out of the van, they already know, right, I need this drill bit, those fixings, we're good to go. And all of a sudden it just becomes easier.
Yeah, that consistency is important. And if you're rolling up on a job and hey, this was installed with EV blocks, all we have to do is mount the station and hook up the cabling and do the checkout. That makes life a lot easier. right? Because at that point, it's really cookie cutter, I guess is the right way to put it, or the way I would think about it. It's not customized every time. You know what you're going to be walking into.
Yeah. And also, if, it's absolutely lashing it down with rain outside, these can be done, in the back of a large van. Or if there's a workshop on site, the guys can go, pick up 10 plates, mount 10 chargers, and just walk them out to the station, put them on, raining in the morning, sunny in the afternoon. Well, you don't want to be, wiring stuff up in the rain if you can do it in the dry.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You're right. You just pick up the plates. You can go someplace else. You don't have to do it out there at the actual site. You can do these in other places, with if there is weather, or just for just for consistency. Maybe you got several chargers. You can go out to a site and already have the plates. You do that in a shop and come out there and you're good to go. That's a thought I had not had. So I love that. So just overall, I mean, we know that a big aspect of transitioning into the electric vehicles in that market depends on the infrastructure rollout. So in your mind, I mean, you're seeing this firsthand. What do you think, as far as if we could deploy chargers faster, what does that really unlock in the overall electric vehicle market?
I think ultimately it's going to unlock consumer confidence in, if I buy one of these electric cars, I'm going to be able to get plugged in somewhere on my general day-to-day journeys, or when I'm on a long journey. I can actually do this quite easily. I've been surprised. So we rolled into a service station. We drove from Scotland back down to our offices. We rolled into a service station on like 2%. And it's like, well, we kind of cut that pretty fine. Went inside, comfort break, had some lunch, come back out to the car, we're like 85% charge in the space of having some lunch and a drink, and back in the car and finish our journey.
Mm-hmm.
From Scotland to our office on one charge, and it didn't really interrupt what we were doing. I think that's pretty good. I'm not a subscriber of this plugging the car in and sitting in the car. It has to work as part of your journey, otherwise I'm out, So far, so good.
Yeah, that's what I hear a lot of people saying as well. Range is getting better, obviously, on EVs, but people say, I can just go in and gas up and I'm out in, 10 minutes. Okay, that's great, but like what you're talking about, if I can sit down and have a meal, maybe I get my computer out, I'm checking some emails, and I'm a little bit more efficient. I think whenever I do that, as opposed to just racing from point A to point B on a road trip or whatever, that makes my life a lot easier. And to your point, that's not really a problem. That's not an inconvenience. So I think that's so important too, is just a different perspective as far as what does charging mean compared to gassing up.
Yeah. And also there's more and more technology leading towards faster charging time. And that's going to give people that kind of gas station experience, that with both the range and new charging speeds or increased charging speeds is going to give the public a lot more confidence in going electric.
100% agree. Trevor, I really appreciate you coming on and breaking this down, because I do think this is one of those conversations that doesn't get enough attention. I mean, everybody may talk about EV adoption, but really not enough people, I don't think, are really talking about deployment speed and that efficiency of infrastructure which you're bringing. So for anybody watching or listening who wants to learn more about EV blocks or connect with you directly, maybe on how this could apply to their projects, where's the best place for them to reach you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. So it's just Trevor Palmer on LinkedIn, or you can find us online at evblocks.com.
Perfect, perfect. And we'll make sure we link you, Trevor, in and EV Blocks in the description so that folks can connect directly. Trevor, thanks again for coming on the Clean Energy Edge.
Thanks for having us.
And to everybody watching, if you care about EV infrastructure, grid expansion, and the real world mechanics behind the energy transition, make sure you're subscribed. We'll catch you on the next one.